Welcome back to Crime Chronicles. Today we take a deep dive into a group of bloodthirsty gangsters called the Family. Could this gang take over from the Kinahan Cartel as the new kings of the drug trade? Stay tuned as we look at this gang's dominance and explore a crazy theory of who might really be behind their rise to power. The Kinahan Organised Crime gang, part of a global super-cartel, have been in sharp decline for a number of years, with many key figures either dead, in prison, or hiding out in Dubai. The decline of the Kinahans has created a vacuum within Dublin's criminal underworld. And now a seismic shift is underway. The tectonic plates controlling the city's lucrative drugs trade have moved. A new mob are seeking to rule. They are called the Family. The Family is an organised crime gang based in Ballyfermot and Clondalkin in West Dublin. These areas sit either side of the River Liffey and are dominated by large housing estates that were developed in the 1970s and 1980s to move people out of poor housing in Dublin's inner city. The Family is headed by two brothers and a tight-knit group of trusted associates. Organised crime experts believe the Family could be the natural heirs to the Kinahan's throne as kings of Dublin's underworld. Gardaí investigating the gang believe they are the chief beneficiaries of the bloody Kinahan-Hutch feud, quietly picking up the pieces and becoming a dominant force while their rivals were killing each other. Security experts have stated that the Family are number 2 to the Kinahans gang in Ireland, and are already trying to establish their own smuggling routes into Ireland and then Europe, bypassing the Kinahans altogether. Many cartels are wary of dealing with the Kinahans now because of the intense scrutiny they are under. Who wants the FBI or DEA after them? It is believed that the Family are dealing directly with the Mexican cartels, and if they're able to control the supply, they'll be on their way into the big leagues. The Kinahan Cartel had that sewn up, but today there are cracks in their network. To fully understand how these new cartels operate, we have to go back almost 40 years to Larry Dunn, widely credited as the man who introduced heroin to Ireland in the 1980s. Larry Dunn was a career criminal who used the connections he made while serving time in jail in the UK during the 1970s to link up with international gangs and begin importing drugs into Ireland. Larry doesn't carry was his motto, which made him difficult to catch. Others handled the product and took the risks while he reaped the reward, and this is the distribution model still used today. Larry Dunn and his gang were able to gain such a foothold due to the Gardaí being preoccupied with the threats posed by Republican paramilitaries. Armed robberies and kidnappings were also a huge drain on the Gardaí's resources. They were not focusing on the rapid growth of the drugs gangs. When Larry Dunn was eventually imprisoned for 14 years in 1985, he stated, "If you think we're bad, wait till you see what's coming after us." An incredibly prophetic statement. When Dunn was released from prison after serving 10 years, the world he had known had changed beyond all recognition. His time at the top of the drugs business was over. The old guard had been replaced by a new breed. Dublin's underworld is now dominated by feuds involving rival gangs with constantly shifting allegiances. Most of these groups are ultra-violent and think nothing of resorting to murder to resolve minor problems. Now, some cartel experts believe the Family have established themselves as the number 1 domestic drugs gang in Ireland. Over the past 3 years, Gardaí have made a number of multi-million euro seizures as they attempt to dismantle the gang's network. In December of 2023, Gardaí intercepted a light aircraft on the tarmac of Western Aerodrome in West Dublin. The shipment contained on the aircraft had been identified by the Marine Analysis and Operations Centre in Lisbon. The MAOCN involves France, Ireland, Italy, Spain, the Netherlands and Portugal, and works to identify illicit drug smuggling routes into Europe. The aircraft had flown into the country a few days earlier, and surveillance teams had watched it around the clock. When the gang attempted to move the aircraft, Gardaí swooped and found 58 kilograms of heroin, worth almost £7 million. A decision was made to intercept the aircraft before it took off, rather than risk losing it in the hope of uncovering a further link in the gang's operation. Gardaí believe the family launders their illicit proceeds outside of the country, with some estimating that they make up to £8 million a month from drugs and extortion. Despite losing drugs and cash worth more than £15 million over the past 18 months, the family is still able to absorb the losses and continue in business. Ireland's Criminal Assets Bureau has made a number of significant seizures from the gang, claiming assets they believe are the proceeds of criminality. The Criminal Assets Bureau can take houses, cars, cash, land, even watches and handbags if they believe they are the proceeds of crime. Also, computers and electronic devices which are seized can be searched to interrogate them for any additional leads to criminal activity. The family, Gardaí believe, are the latest threat to Irish society, running and enforcing the drugs trade in Ireland. Yet, the Kinahan Cartel is also still active. The family cartel is led by Brian Grendon. Grendon is in his early 40s and is notoriously private, shunning the use of social media. He is clean living and highly paranoid, checking his vehicles and premises for bugging devices on a regular basis. It is understood he trusts a handful of key lieutenants who have been close to him for years and who operate as his right-hand men. His brother Philip is one of his closest confidants and a key figure in the cartel. Gardaí believe that in the past decade, Brian Grendon has become the most significant heroin dealer in Ireland after he concentrated on keeping at arm's length from his supplies following a prison sentence. He was convicted in 2002 after a court heard he was seen taking a black plastic bag of heroin during a drug deal. After his release from prison, he vowed that he would never spend another day behind bars and set himself up as a car dealer. Intent on staying out of jail, Grendon set up a new modus operandi on his release when it came to selling the family's wares. He set up a particular delivery and collection service using green areas in Ballyfermot. There, he had young associates number lampposts and would send one of his senior lieutenants to coordinate the collection of bags of smack by buyers who would be directed to different labelled posts for their supplies. Grendon and the family have capitalised on the Gardaí focusing all of their resources on taking down the Kinahans. They have grown rapidly and are definitely aiming to be the top dogs in the world of Irish organised crime. Interestingly, a theory has been floated that the family may not be the rivals of the Kinahans, but working as silent partners. This might make sense, as global contacts and smuggling routes developed by the Kinahans might now have been taken on by the family, with a percentage going back to the Kinahans. This could explain how the key figures of the Kinahan Cartel managed to still live lavish lifestyles in Dubai, even after having access to their cash, businesses, and assets cut off by governments around the world. It remains to be seen if this theory has any credibility, but what we do know for sure is that as the Kinahan Cartel appears to weaken, the family are rushing to fill the void left by such a dominant group. Will the family reach the top? Only time will tell. Thank you for joining us today on Crime Chronicles. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share the channel with your friends.